I worked on program support for various intel projects around the Middle East and Central Asia.
You guys are really spies, both of you, aren't you? That's the feeling that's the feeling I'm getting from this conversation.
Not in the least.
That's exactly what spies would say. Welcome to Expat Life Germany. It's the show about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. And hey, listen, before we start, I'd love for you to discuss the episodes in the Expat Life Germany Facebook group. Link is in the show notes, or you can just find the Expat Life Germany Facebook page and click on groups and request to join. This week's episode, I am talking to a couple named Zach and Audrey. They're from the United States of America. Zach's originally from Pennsylvania, and he is a cartographer, and he came over to Germany on a SOFA status, which stands for Status of Forces Agreement. We talk a bit about what that is, but I've also linked to the Wikipedia article for a bit of an explanation of what the SOFA status is. Now, Zach met Audrey while he was still in the States, and she came over later, and in order to do so, she's had to take on a number of varied jobs here in Germany in the past, including cuckoo clock salesperson. In our interview, we discuss their first year of living apart while Zach was in Germany and Audrey was still back in the United States of America. We also talk about a blog post that Audrey wrote called Growing a Thicker Skin, and it describes her challenges adapting to the new culture. You should definitely read this article because it absolutely resonated with me. And in our interview, Audrey dropped some major insights that she's learned from her journey that I believe anyone coming to Germany can relate to. The interview with Audrey and Zach made me laugh a few times because they are just so much fun, and you'll hear it when you listen to the interview. They're such a great couple, and it was really cool to get an insight into their life as a couple here in Germany. Take a listen to the interview. I think you're going to like it. Let me let you guys introduce yourselves.
Zach, you go first.
My name is Zach, as Sean stated. And I made my way here from Pennsylvania via the Washington, D.C. area. Been here about 5 years now, and I'm working something that I think is of interest to Sean is SOFA status. I'm here via the Army under a contracting position with a government contracting company.
So we'll get to that SOFA status because I also have a SOFA status, but I think it means something different to what you refer to it. And Audrey is also on the line.
Yes, and I'm from the DC area. I did spend a few years in Idaho as a kid, but really call DC my home and spent most of my adult life there. Before I went to Germany, I was a defense contractor, and that's actually how we met.
Okay, so you met in the States, obviously.
Yes.
So how is it that you've ended up in Germany? Maybe you can give me an idea of that.
Well, Zach got here first.
So okay. Zach, I guess you're up.
I'm up. So my background is a cartographer. I studied geography in college, and I make maps primarily and manage data. Okay. So my work history has been in the map industry for about 15 years now. And I wanted to have an international experience, I guess, so to speak. Wanted to work and live abroad. And right. So this job came up. My company has sites all over the US and a couple outside of the US. And there was a position open. A friend referred me, and went for it. And 5 years later, here we are.
Almost six.
Almost six. Were you guys planning to stay for so long? Was it open-ended?
My initial intention was a year.
Right. Mission accomplished. And Audrey, how did you end up coming across?
So we actually spent a year apart, long distance, while he was here because he moved 3 months after we met. So we actually spent way more time apart than we did together in the first year and a half to 2 years of our relationship. And his company really wanted him to stay coming up near the end of his year. And we looked into it. I wasn't particularly tied to my job. I felt like maybe this could be a really neat opportunity to try. We said we'd we would do it for 9 months. So that would put him in Germany for about 2 years. And then we would go back. But clearly, we haven't done that yet.
No, clearly not. So, yeah, so you moved across, and then did you guys have any experience or any kind of connection to Germany beforehand? What made you specifically seek out Germany?
For me, it was where the position existed.
Yeah.
I do have German background, but I think that's about as far as it goes for reasons for picking Germany.
Yeah.
My parents were actually stationed here in the same way that Zach kind of is. They were military in the 80s, not in this particular local region, but they had been in Germany for several years.
Right.
So I was always kind of interested in Germany, and I was always interested in Europe in general.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you guys just kind of randomly ended up in Germany for 1 year.
Really randomly, yeah.
Yeah. So how is it that, you guys were together for 3 months, then Zach came over.
Mm-hmm.
And how often were you guys in touch? Did you fly back and forth?
We were in touch every day. We had a schedule. In fact, we did. It was a good schedule. And we were really, I think, prepared. We had a book that we read together about how to survive a long distance relationship. There's really cool apps. It was a 6-hour time difference. So I would wake up at 6 to talk to him on his lunch break, and he goes to bed much later than me. So he would stay up and talk to me when I would come home from practice after work or wherever I was out. And then as far as actually seeing each other in person, he flew home for 48 hours. Yeah. And then I went to Germany for 2 weeks in the summer. He came home in October for 2 weeks. And then I went over on Christmas vacation for 2 weeks. And it was that vacation that we decided we would try to move me over. And so from the time I got home to the time I actually moved here was 6 weeks.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
It was very fast.
One thing I wanted to ask is, you said that there's apps for that, for being in a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
What does it do? Just a direct chat or?
We had an app called Couple, and I actually reinstalled it a few months ago to see if it was still alive, and it is.
Okay.
And it had all kinds of features, which 5 years ago was kind of new. For example, we could draw a picture at the same time together.
Okay.
It was a direct messaging component, but something that we really liked, and it's kind of cheesy, but you could put your finger on the screen or your thumb and it would light up on the other person's phone, and then they would touch it, and then both phones vibrate. So it was kind of like you were hugging or touching from a ways away.
That's very cool. I'm curious to know how many people use that or know about it.
If you're familiar with Reddit, I found the app from a long distance relationship subreddit, actually. And a lot of people on there were using it and recommended it.
So you were quite serious about this long distance relationship if you were joining subreddits about it and getting it.
Oh, we had a book. We would watch movies. We would plan movie time, long distance. We had our own little book club going.
Okay. So what does movie time look like? You guys schedule a time and then you Skype or what does that look like?
Very challenging,
complicated
adventure.
Okay.
We both would obtain the same movie, and then we would count down 3, 2, 1, and press play.
Okay. And then if someone needed a potty break?
Well, that was the issue, is that we both really like Top Gear. And so we were rewatching a series of Top Gear, and we would notice that Zach would suddenly be 10 minutes ahead.
Really?
And we thought maybe the earth spinning is ruining the internet. But then it turned out, after some research, that not only are the Netflix shows sometimes different across countries, like I'm sure everyone's noticed, but the cuts and the edits of the shows themselves are different.
Wow.
So it ended up being easier. I would use my big TV in my living room, aim my laptop at the screen, call him on my phone, mute one of those devices, have the phone facing me.
I would have loved to have been during the figuring out of all of that. Like, okay, so I need to mute this. Let me mute this. And then, and then you watch now, and then we're watching the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I had a roommate who walked in once and was like, what is this setup?
But it's interesting about the Netflix shows because I did hear someone told me that for the German versions of the Netflix shows, because they have to dub a lot of these things, they shoot extra scenes with the back of the person's head. So they actually shoot separate scenes or extended parts of the scenes that they're shooting where you can't see the mouths of the people just in case they need to use that for the extra bit of dialogue that they put in. So I was like, wow. I did not realize that.
That's so weird because we had the exact opposite, where the shows in Germany were shorter. They were like cutting. Yeah, they were cutting out, especially if there was music. Okay. Maybe they didn't have the license for the song or something, but they'd cut out the entire scene that had the music, and you wouldn't know. You wouldn't. It was flawless.
Would just never know. Yeah, you'd think you're watching the full show, and it's. I would understand for TV shows maybe, but it surprises me that they do it for things like Top Gear or those kinds of shows. That's weird.
Mm-hmm. It was weird.
What did you say the name of that app was again?
It's called Couple.
Couple.
And it's like the icon is two speech bubbles.
Okay. I'm gonna look this up on Google and realize that just about everyone in the world is using it except for me. It's one of these things.
Probably.
Okay. 1 billion subscribed.
Yeah, 1 billion subscribers. I'm like, what? Where have I been? I was obviously born under a rock. Anyways, so I'd like to get to this SOFA status that you were mentioning for people who may not know what that is. What is it?
It stands for Status of Forces Agreement. I don't really know the technical jargon, but it is an agreement between US and I believe all of European or possibly just NATO countries where US has operations in those countries. And so we're allowed to operate here as long as we meet certain criteria. Okay. So for me, I have to have 11 now years of experience. And essentially that means that no one else can do the job that I'm tasked to do.
But specifically, it's not for Germany.
Right. It's just a general agreement.
Yeah. So I have to go through an approval process, talk about my intentions for being here, basically that I'm just here to work.
How long can you stay for then? Is there a limit on this? How long you stay for?
So it's contract based. In theory, the contract could go on for many, many years. Mine is my first contract. I came in the middle of it, so I was here for 3 years of a 5-year contract, and then now I'm on the second year of another 5-year contract. And so, contracting world is fun. If someone else wins the contract, a lot of times they will just hire the people who are already in place. But yeah, fortunately my company won and we got to maintain the contract. And so, yeah, we're in theory could be here another 3 years.
And what does that mean for your citizenship or permanent residency in Germany? Do you get access to those kinds of visas or is it completely separate to that?
No. So the SOFA stamp or card is my visa to be here. Yeah. So when I go in and out of customs, I just show them I have a little piece of paper that goes with my passport and that indicates to them that I'm here with the armed forces and can come and go.
He's essentially invisible to Germany. Yeah. Everybody under SOFA is. There was no registration. There's no Schengen. There's nothing. They don't exist here. Even their cars have a special licensing department.
Really? Mm-hmm. It's like a whole subcult.
A whole subcult.
In Europe. Slowly infiltrating Europe, drawing maps of everything.
Exactly.
So that's interesting. So you guys are clearly enjoying Germany if you have been here for so long. Or was it a case that you're staying because of the work, because of the extra contract?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Okay.
The work life is pretty good. I am earning tax-free income, which is also a benefit of the status.
This seems like a dream.
Right?
No paperwork, tax-free, special.
Oh, there's paperwork.
There's paperwork. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
But it's in English.
Well, there you've already won.
Right.
It's like the lottery.
Yes. Personally, it's been fantastic. We travel all over. The list is getting smaller, but it's still been an amazing experience. And we've also found a couple happy places. So we revisit Austria quite a bit.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we enjoy things like that. The perks of the arrangement are quite nice.
Yeah. Now, Audrey, you came over to be with Zach, who was here. And you said you had a job that you weren't connected to back in the States. What did you do when you moved over to Germany?
So I was contracting with the Drug Enforcement Agency via the Department of Justice.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked on program support for various intel projects around the Middle East and Central Asia.
You guys are really spies, both of you, aren't you? That's the feeling I'm getting from this conversation.
Not in the least.
That's exactly what spies would say.
That is true, yeah. So we'll never know.
No, we'll never know. Okay, sorry. Continue.
And then I had a brief stint contracting for the Department of State, working in SATCOMs and emergency deployment situations, supporting logistics and people and teams.
Right.
I thought by moving over here on my own dime, because whereas Zach had the benefit of a company and our government moving him and taking care of all that, if I wanted to come over because we're not married and because I wasn't being sent by anyone, we had to just figure it out. I thought, well, if I get here and register and I get everything, situated so they don't have to pay for me, I'm totally hireable. So I got situated, went on base. Zach signed me onto the military base here, and I went to a career fair, and everything went really well. Got an interview, and they said, "This is great. We'd like you to start and continue what you were doing. We just need your SOFA card and something else to get started." And I said, "Oh, well, I don't have one of those. I need to be sponsored." And they said, "That's a big problem because you've already registered with a foreign government and therefore you're ineligible to continue the line of work you were doing."
Oh, that would have been good to know beforehand.
Yep, that was a huge, oh my God, now what moment?
Yeah. So then what?
Well, my plan had been, since Christmas vacation, my backup plan was to coach a rowing team here.
As one does.
As you do. And so
you were a rower back then, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Coxswain, coach, ref, rower. I liked all of it. I can even repair a boat sometimes. It's not too bad. And I pursued the coaching opportunity harder to make sure I got it. And eventually they became, the way I was in Germany legally, I may have the only rowing visa in the Rhine-Main area. Ever.
I didn't even know that's a thing.
Well, I just made it a thing. And
okay.
Said, okay.
I am now on the rowing visa.
Yes, I am now on a rowing visa.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess that gig didn't you're not still doing that gig, right?
No, I mean, to be honest, my very first job in Germany, maybe 3 days after I got here, I worked at a cuckoo clock shop and sold cuckoo clocks.
Where was this?
The largest cuckoo clock in the world store is here in Wiesbaden. Yeah. Okay.
I did not know that about Wiesbaden or that the cuckoo clock industry.
Come see our clock.
So what is that like? Do they train you on the cuckoo clocks? Like, say, how the different ones work? Or is it pretty much an easy start to that job?
I mean, if you count conversations over lunch over the various manufacturers and what makes a cuckoo clock €8,000 and €125, then yeah, that was my training.
Okay. Very cool. Did you have an interest in cuckoo clocks that led you to pursuing the cuckoo clock career?
I had an interest in cash. So
that always is the clincher, isn't it? Also, I'm stringing together sentences I never thought I would. Like, did that entice you into the cuckoo clock career? I mean, I don't think that would be a sentence that I would ever say.
To sum up living and moving over here, it's honestly, I'm putting together sentences I never thought I would need.
Okay, so cuckoo clock salesperson, rowing coach. Then what?
I did find a contracting job for a little bit with a German-American company doing proposal writing. At the same time, I decided that neither of those current options were probably going to last very long. So I started training to become an English teacher. And about the same time the rowing job ended, I transitioned into teaching English. And when I transitioned to teaching English, I already had an idea that I would probably run into companies, because I only wanted to teach business English. I only wanted to teach at companies that I would find interesting, maybe as potential employers. So every job I've kind of done here has been to get me somewhere else, essentially.
And where are you at now?
So now I'm at a design agency, my second one here. And we do creative communications, marketing, brand strategy, and consulting, basically anything that requires design and communications.
Wow, varied history. And there is something that you sent in your initial mail to me when you got in touch, and we were discussing you guys coming on the podcast. You listed through a whole bunch of things, and one thing that caught my eye was being in the back of a cop car in my town. Like, was that just a lift or?
So, my phone got stolen out of my purse, and of all places, it was stolen at church. Someone went into a church and went into a purse and stole my phone. I know. Okay. So I had the, Find My Phone turned on, the Android app. Mm-hmm. And we went home and we tracked it, and I could see it was in a neighborhood near us, and it was near the police station. And I thought, well, even to just get insurance rolling, I should probably make a report. And this was a Saturday. And we went down to the police station together and explained what was going on. I had a screenshot of the last known location of the phone. Plus, I think we were using Zach's phone or something to track it live. And I don't know why we did this. I think they were bored. But the cop said, well, why don't you get in the car and we'll drive around and look for it?
Yeah.
We were like, okay.
Let's do that. They must be bored. I sometimes think the cops in Germany have got nothing to do. That's like, honestly, what else are they doing?
Like, what are they going to do? Yell out with a microphone? Has anyone stolen a phone? Please come outside. But they drove us around in the back of a cop car, and it was really interesting to see the differences between an American and German cop car.
Yeah. Have you been in the back of an American cop car?
I have, but not because I was breaking the law or anything.
Okay, all right, just checking. I'm looking for stories is basically all I'm doing.
Fair.
So that is, did you find the phone in the end?
No, absolutely not. It definitely went straight to a reseller, I'm sure.
I was picturing some kind of high-speed car chase through the streets of the city or something like that, but no.
We actually, I did have my phone pickpocketed in Berlin the year prior, and we did get that back.
In both cases, the phone was a Huawei. So
yeah,
there's a sign, folks. What did you get a Huawei now?
Nope, no. I went right back.
Yeah, we're done with those. They keep getting stolen. Yeah, and I guess a church is a good place to steal something because no one's expecting it there. That's exactly
seriously, yeah, no one, yeah. Even today, it's still kind of talked about.
The legendary phone theft of.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, also in that mail where you got hold of me, you mentioned that the relationship that you have is pretty unique as far as you guys can see, or as far as you can see, Audrey, with regards to, I don't know with regards to what. You were just saying that it's unique and that you haven't come across many other people who have a similar setup to what you and Zach have. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Well, in my perspective, so Zach is part of the large American community here, who I would traditionally refer to as expats. I don't consider myself an expat. I consider myself an immigrant. And I don't meet very many American immigrants, if at all. And when I do, they're never in a relationship with an American or anybody who's under the Status of Forces Agreement. Okay. So we live dual lives in dual currencies, dual systems. And when you're not married, this makes it more difficult. But we also discovered that getting married would make life maybe even more difficult in other unexpected ways. So we've just had to learn and adapt to straddling these two systems we live under.
And Zach, you travel quite a lot still, I think you said, didn't you?
I travel a bit for work. But yeah, Audrey and I travel. Well, she travels quite a bit for work more recently, but her and I just basically the first year, because as we were saying, we weren't sure how long we were going to stay. So we just kept crossing countries off and then major cities, really. We kind of had city destinations. More recently, we've kind of slowed that down, but have been going back to places we really enjoy.
And that's the great thing about Europe. I love that about Germany as well, because you get the opportunity to just easily shoot across even to London, which is about 1,000 kilometers from where I live. It's really cool.
Yep. And because we're 40-minute train ride to the Frankfurt airport, it's so easy.
Yeah. And something that occurred to me with the setup that you guys had, and you mentioned coming across other immigrants and so on. Do you have a lot of social contact with Germans? Have you integrated? How's the integration into the German culture gone?
So when I came over, by myself, because it was a year, I came with very little stuff. I think I brought a giant backpack, my snowboard gear, and I shipped over 3 boxes of
The important stuff, basically.
Right.
Yeah, some additional clothes.
The essentials.
Yep. I got a furnished apartment. So that, of course, was an experience.
Yeah.
Something that is different for me versus other military or civilian, so civilian folks are people who work for the government. I'm a contractor. I work for a company that works for the government. So contractors we don't really get, we get a lot of the perks, but not every perk. So
Right.
like finding a house or a place to live is kind of on your own. So yeah, I came over very little. And aside from talking to Audrey almost every day, it was a little bit daunting for me. I had traveled abroad a few times, but not to Europe. I'd actually never been to Europe before moving. And so I had to learn to use the bus system, decided that I wouldn't get a car because I didn't want that expense or to deal with it.
Which is huge for an American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not having a car and I'm a car person too. So that was really, really challenging. But it is amazingly easy. I mean, the transportation system here is quite good.
Yeah, it is amazing.
I know we were talking earlier about going to Frankfurt Airport and traveling, but you can also jump on a train and be in Paris in 3.5 hours, I think. So learning all those systems, the bus system, I studied a little bit of the language, but at the point when my company said you're going, I had about, I think, a month to prepare. So yeah, language was a bit challenging. I think in the first few months, what really has, I guess, broken me through the barriers is I started playing volleyball.
Right. And
there were tournaments that were held that were American and German.
Okay.
So I met a lot of people through that. I also did Meetup. If you're familiar with Meetup, it's a social group and people post, hey, we're going to the movies or we're going to the park. So I participated in a lot of those and made some good friends, which a lot of the Americans you meet here are related to the base, but I did make some good German friends as well as people from other regions as well. So yeah, that was a really good experience.
And what about you, Audrey?
Because I don't have access to the American military community, except through Zach, I first made all my friends through Zach, but then I don't exactly remember how I started branching out on my own. I think it just kind of naturally went with whatever job I was doing at the time. I picked up German fairly quickly, because I had to, since when you live under the German system, that's what you need to do. And so it was a little bit easier for me. Plus, I think there's a difference between me and Zach in that I talk a lot. And I really enjoy talking, and I can converse about anything with anyone for any amount of time. And I am just really curious about everything. I mean, if there was an advertisement on a bus, I immediately Google translated it because I wanted to know what it said.
Right.
And even though the grocery cashiers want nothing to do with me in my day, the first 3 years here, I still tried to talk to all of them before I finally gave up and realized they weren't going to talk back to me. But by that point, we already had a set of friends through my work, through his sports, through our church, and I guess. And then I joined sports clubs too. So if you join a club in Germany, you have friends. But if you don't join a club in Germany, you're not going to meet anyone.
Yeah, it's true. You have to do it through the Vereins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vereins everywhere.
Vereins everywhere and for everything.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
I was surprised. I live quite rurally in Germany, and we get, even out here in the weekly, I don't know what you call it in English, Mitteilungsblatt. It's the weekly newsletter, I guess you could say, that gets delivered in our post boxes. There's Vereins for forest walks and Vereins for, football clubs that you would expect. and then there's church groups, and then there's table tennis. I'm like, what? What is all of this?
There are vereins for potatoes in our area. I've seen them. There are tractor vereins, and there are competing tractor vereins, not just like one, but there's
saucy.
a couple. I
can
know.
imagine that tractor rivalry must get pretty heated.
It's got to get heated.
I'd love to be there.
And you have to have a license for everything.
And you have to have a license and a permit for everything.
And a certificate. And a stempel. You must stempel all your papers.
Just on the topic of making friends and interfacing with Germans, you run a blog, Audrey, called abroad.com. And one of the articles that caught my eye and that I enjoyed reading was an article called Growing a Thicker Skin, which I think you wrote this year in June. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you mention is that you use humor a lot in your conversations and your discussions with people. And then you were saying that it's not always possible with the Germans or with the German culture or let's say German conversations and so on.
Correct.
Yeah. How do you get by then if you're not able to, because I'm a similar kind of thing, and I think a lot of people from certain countries like America, like Britain, South Africa, Australia, we're used to making a lot of jokes and a lot of throwaway comments, like a joke that we just make in the heat of the moment, and we don't even intend it always to be that hilarious, even though some of us are hilarious naturally. But the Germans, it's not quite like that. And for a long time when I first came to Germany, I felt like I'd had something stripped away from my personality because I literally couldn't use this one thing that I relied on very heavily when meeting people.
I could say that exact same sentence.
And that's what I got from your article. That's when I was reading it, I 100% related because I felt like, wow, that what you're saying is what I experienced in the beginning. And especially when I tried to speak German and I tried to make jokes in German, it would crash and burn in horrible ways. Yeah, so I was quite interested that was part of your experience as well. Have you found a way around it? Have you found it easier to make jokes in German now to people?
It's not easier, but now when I get in that situation and it falls flat, I just move on, just like they do. Yeah. It feels so awkward and awful, but I'm moving along with it. It's gonna happen, and I'm reframing it as jokes don't translate well sometimes. And I thought for the longest time, Germans are not funny. You Google it, it's true. Everyone thinks that. Yeah. However, when I really started listening and paying attention to when they would laugh, Germans love wordplay.
Yeah, they do. And sometimes what seems to us to really stupid wordplay sometimes, but they do love it. They love physical comedy and wordplay.
They do. Oh, physical comedy. That's the one that kills me because I'm like, it is not the 1920s. This is not Three Stooges, but you all act like. Oh, well, for example, Dinner for One.
Yeah, Dinner for One. It's
exactly not funny.
Right. It's not funny, and yet they love it, and it is the only show that they put on in English in Germany.
See, I love that.
I was going to say.
It's the most hilarious sketch ever.
The most hilarious 11 minutes of your life.
Yeah, and they love it, and it's a very different kind of humor here. It's definitely very, very different. But
like the wordplay. Like, do you know any jokes in German?
You're putting me on the spot now.
Sorry, I have a joke in German for you.
Okay,
because this is the one that's my example. Okay, gibt es zwei Fischchen und einer sagt an die andere Hi und sie wegschwimmen. You get it?
Terrible. So let's try and translate that for our listeners who may not have a good German. So, where do you start?
Two fish are swimming.
Two fish, yeah. And the one says to the other one, hi, which is the word for shark.
Yeah.
But it's also a greeting.
Yeah, it's not funny, but it is.
Yeah.
But I guess when I try to, like at work, try to laugh off a situation, especially because I think it's very accurate to say that the German culture can tend towards the pessimistic.
Yeah.
Maybe they would say realistic.
I think that's a nice way of putting it, yes.
Yeah, realistic point of view from their frame of reference. And in any job I've had, if something feels impossible, it's a no. Because it can't possibly 100 be a yes. So it's automatically a no,
A no,
even if
yeah.
that no could bend towards yes. And I try generally to do my, sky's the limit, guys, haha, funny American, super optimistic. And then it falls flat because one of them will inevitably say, but that's not a true fact.
Yeah.
Always. And I'm like, well, I know it's not a true fact.
You're ruining the buzz, aren't you? You're killing the buzz.
And then I just get blank stares and I can feel everyone starting to be really uncomfortable.
I guess you have a different approach to social situations, Zach. You're not as talkative as Audrey, or are you an introvert, extrovert? How would you see yourself?
I'm pretty extroverted.
Right.
I think what's different for me is maybe I'm a little bit more German.
Okay. Oh, he is in the land of his people here.
So it's kind of weird because I do work on the basis. Plus, what I do for work is very technical and it's a lot of rules based work.
Right. Very methodical. Very.
Yeah. While it is sort of art, so cartography has a bit of an art aspect to it. The side that I venture on is I don't get to choose my colors. I don't get to choose my fonts. So it is very structured.
Right.
So in a way that works for me. I like to talk to people about what they do and where they're from and what they enjoy in their free time and things like that. So Audrey likes to dig into what's going on in the world, who's who, things like that. And I also like with volleyball, I want to like get better, and I'm always trying to talk to people about how they play and why they do things a certain way. Also I always observe what is going on around me. Right. So like if I go to a restaurant, I'm like, why did they put the coffee machine over there when it would be better used over here? Like I just, I'm
observing or judging?
Well,
let's say the German observation.
It is.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Which is very much judging.
All right, fair. I'll take it.
But we have a similar situation in my relationship. I am as far as from German as you can get, because I am very, how can I put this, relaxed when it comes to rules, and I'm very chilled and not very efficient. I kind of do things in circular ways because I'm also quite a creative person. So I sometimes need different ways to get to an end result, and it drives the Germans crazy. It drives them crazy sometimes. My colleagues, sometimes I can see that their eyes are rolling most of the time with me, but it's just the way I am. And my wife is a mechanical engineer, and she, just like you said, Audrey, with Zach, I felt like she was already a German long before we moved over here, because she works with those constraints very well. She needs the rules, the structure, and it's very interesting.
I guess I was getting really depressed at some point here. I didn't want to leave because it felt like a challenge. I don't know what I'm going to win by living here. Mm-hmm. I could not tell you what it is, but I knew I couldn't leave. And I was getting really upset and really lonely and really confused. I started to doubt myself and my own personality, and thinking I was just this overly bubbly, never serious, not going to contribute to society person. Yeah. And I think, first of all, something that really helped me is I am a huge believer in therapy. I always have a therapist somewhere on hand. Even did that via app here, and I still have an app for therapy here. Okay. That's incredibly helpful. And I was able to...
What's that app called?
The app I was using is called BetterHelp.
Okay.
It's American based, but I don't see any reason why anyone couldn't use it with a credit card. And BetterHelp was awesome for me because finding therapy in your native language in a foreign country is slim to none, generally. Okay. Yeah. So I did that, and then I also, with the help of that and with Zach and other conversations, I finally just really had to push those thoughts aside and just let them sit there and observe them from afar and see how I felt living life, but not judging it and observing it from those aspects anymore. And I finally got back to a place where I thought, that's fine. I'm not of this culture. And I'm really understanding now immigrants in the United States who don't learn English or don't speak it well, or just, they've been there for 50 years, but you'd swear they got there a year ago, because sometimes your personality is not meant to jive with the area that you're in.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
No, but you can find ways to exist quite happily and thrive.
Okay,
and
which is what you've done, I assume.
Thriving. Oh yeah, I love my quirks now. I really love how different I am here. And I've met people who love that too. And in the end, I found out too, I wasn't this huge annoyance and I wasn't a detriment to people around me. It was just, I was being studied and they were trying to figure out how to exist with me too. Yeah. So it went both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is part of the problem. And the Germans do it very visibly when they're studying you and trying to figure you out, because it's almost like they're trying to take you apart bit by bit by questioning everything you say and do to the nth degree, and it can be very disheartening. I've experienced similar things, and I think a lot of people coming to Germany from similar cultures to ours would have experienced exactly that. And it's interesting that you were in a relationship, but you mentioned that you also felt really lonely at the same time. So you can not be lonely because you're in a relationship, but you do feel lonely because you're isolated to the grander society that you're living in, I suppose.
Definitely. I mean, I've even had periods in my life when I was in the States where I had big groups of friends and family and people who loved me, and I still felt lonely.
Yeah.
And I was able to look back on that and say, this could just also be part of who you are, that sometimes you feel lonely and sometimes you feel like you're disconnecting, and now you've just added several layers of difficulty to it.
Yeah. How long did that take for you to make peace with that?
It comes and goes in waves. But I would say over the last year and a half, up to 2 years maybe, I have felt my strongest, for sure. I have felt my most confident. I've felt my most... I'm going back to that person who thinks it's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yeah.
And I'm not deported. I'm still here.
Woo.
I know. So it's going well.
We're pulling it off one day at a time.
Well, yeah, I really just chunks at a time. I don't need to live life all at once.
Yeah.
That's exhausting.
Was there a certain level of reinvention that had to happen for you to at least interface to a degree?
Probably. When it comes to reinvention, I guess, well, going back to what you said about questioning, I am a really inquisitive person. And I am a really curious person. And back home, I know that sometimes I could come off as a blunt person. And I had to look at that from here and realize that, hey, that really sucks to be on the other end of it. Yeah. You should really consider how you're talking to other people. So in a way, yes, I think that I've kept that inquisitiveness, but I think I've really learned how to soften it. Even though I was teaching communication skills, because that's a job I forgot to mention. Zach and I were both teachers at a university here for a while.
Okay.
And we taught people how to use empathy in communicating, especially internationally. But I really wasn't taking that lesson home until I was at a low point.
Very interesting, and I think a lot of people can relate to that general feeling. And that article that I mentioned earlier is actually called "Growing a Thicker Skin," and I think that's more or less what you're saying with that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to stop getting my feelings hurt all the time.
yeah, and you just got to move on. You just got to kind of, like you said with the jokes. You got to make a joke, and if it fails and everyone stares at you, you just got to move on. If you try to speak German to a German and they look at you with a scrunched up expression, you just kind of have to go, okay,
it's so true. It's so true.
And
I
then
think
they
my
speak
jokes
to you
are
in perfect English.
Yeah, right. I know. Like, why? What? Why would we? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's very interesting. So yeah, if people should definitely check out your blog, abroad.com. How often do you update that, Audrey? Okay.
In waves. When I get a creative spark going, sometimes I'll publish every week, and sometimes it might be a couple months. I think the last thing I published might have been about a 5K I did back in August. I'm not sure.
I saw there was something about a run that you'd done. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as I said, this article, the growing a thicker skin, really resounded to me, and not just because you drew a very cool graph of well-being and emotional state over months in a new country.
It's accurate. It's
Science.
Yeah, no, Zach scienced it. It's
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
I was gonna chime in and say, going back to my story, it was pretty easy. I mean, my company sent me over here. I've got some perks through the base, from discounted utilities to discounted gas. The point is, I had it pretty easy, and I did mention some difficulties, but ultimately, what Audrey's gone through has been far more difficult, and for her to evolve the way she has been pretty impressive.
Aw.
That's a nice thing to say from the kitchen.
Hug him.
Yeah, Zach is in the kitchen and Audrey is somewhere else. I don't know where they are, but they're in the same apartment. They just
I'm not reading off cue cards.
This is what you say now, Zach.
I mean, from language, like her language skills, I'm kind of a believer that there's certain people who just are good at languages.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could probably try harder. But she's German, French, and if we go anywhere else, she seems to pick up phrases like no problem. She's gone through this evolution of a work history that's pretty cool, and has overcome a lot. So it's just been neat to see all the things and challenges that she's had to overcome. So
yeah.
Well, let me turn that back around, because Zach is not the most gifted with languages, but he'll never starve in any country he's in, because he learns those food items immediately.
Well, it is a survival instinct.
Nope, he is on. Zach can also make friends anywhere he goes. That's not a talent I don't think I have.
Okay.
So between the two of us, we're making it.
You got it covered.
Yeah.
You guys have got it covered. What is the feeling from you guys now? Let's say the contract doesn't get renewed the next time. Is there a chance that you would stay here anyway and find new things, new careers, new opportunities here? Or would it be heading back home, or have you not really even thought that far?
Oh, man. I have thought about staying and working for, like I mentioned before, I'm into cars and technical things. So I have looked at, say working for BMW or something. And I think that while that'd be cool, I think my biggest hurdle is missing family and those really good friends from the States.
Which hint, friends and family, you need to come over here.
Yeah.
Hint.
Come visit us.
You listen to this.
You have a free place to stay.
Yep. Just got to get that plane ticket and then you're good to go.
Just to be clear, they don't mean my house. They mean Zach and Audrey's house.
That is key. That's key.
Just need to put that out there.
So, yeah, I mean, that's been challenging. I think, too, because I'm in a military environment, people come and go a lot. So I've made some good friends and they've left. So that's been tough.
That is a common problem with expat or foreigners in a country, that it's generally a state of flux. So you get to know someone and then they're gone.
But that's pretty normal for the DC area too. When you grow up there, people leave on the political cycle every 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
It's at least pretty good in where I live now rurally, because no one's going anywhere. They stay here for generations.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't leave.
So we're just going to
village.
settle in. Yeah, we're going to just settle in for the next 50 years. Sorry, Zach, I interrupted you, I think.
Oh, no. Well, that is an interesting thing, too, because I guess Audrey and I being in the DC area, people do come and go. But it was, I don't know. I guess I was close to home. So I think I could always go home for the weekend or something like that. So I think that was a little bit different, which I can always fly home for the weekend. So
which we've done.
But
for the weekend.
Yeah, for like weddings.
We're weekend warriors.
Yeah, we've said too, any place in Europe, basically you can go for a couple of days and feel like, at least we can feel like you've experienced
castle, cathedral, tower you pay to climb.
Yeah,
done.
You're done.
Yeah.
Seen it, check, on to the next city.
Yeah.
That's
actually very
cuisine.
True.
Yep.
Yeah. I was in Hamburg for literally 2 days last week, and it was the same thing. I felt like, wow, okay, it's enough time to get a feel for the place. You can't deep dive, obviously, but you can really get a really cool idea of the vibe and what's going on there.
Yeah. If So full disclosure to any of my colleagues who are listening, I'm not planning to move to the US, but
Yeah.
we have discussed the idea of maybe living between two continents for a while, and maybe I could take my job with me and but still be based out of Frankfurt, and serve our American clients back and forth, plus the European clients from there, because really the world is so connected, especially in digital marketing and communications.
Yeah.
I almost never see my clients face to face, and it's fine. Right. Life continues on. And even when things need to be printed or built or constructed tangibly, you form a network of vendors to help you do that.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that, one, to help reduce my footprint on the planet. I would love to not fly around everywhere, but I would love to be stationed where I need to be stationed and still serve people around the world.
Yeah.
So that's my dream job, is to eventually be able to take it anywhere and still work with my really cool team and my really great clients.
And I think more and more people are doing that. It's definitely becoming more possible to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the responsible thing to do. That's my heavy green heart opinion.
I'll tell you what, this got deep. How do we get out of this? I gotta get this interview out of this.
We could just be German and say thank you, goodbye.
Okay, goodbye. So before we wrap up, I usually ask the guest at the end of the interview to give one bit of advice to people coming to the country. So Zach, let's start with you. What would your advice be to new foreigners coming to Germany?
Oh wow!
Other than getting on a sofa status.
Yeah,
because that sounds like a dream, man. That sounds like a dream.
Get that contract gig.
Yeah, just do a job for 10 years, be really, really good at it, and
Absolutely.
I mean, I think for anything I do, I just try to take in what you see, what you are surrounded by. Make an effort. That's probably the biggest thing is just on language alone. Not walking into a shop and being like, "Hi, what's going on?" Not being the typical American, I guess, thinking everyone speaks English. So, learning that phrase, "Hi, my German, meine Deutsch ist nicht so good." So saying, "I don't speak German very well. Can you speak English?" And most of the time they do. Yeah. Even sometimes in the smaller towns, and just being kind of putting yourself out there, saying that hey, I'm new here, even though I'm not anymore, but
new-ish.
I still use that phrase, but yeah. And I think, like Audrey said, she's adapted to things like humor or the directness for a while. I'm from a small town, so I say hi to everybody and how's it going and whatever. What's your name? And here it's like, no, you don't. What do you need? Why are you in my shop? What do you want?
Why are you smiling?
Right. Yeah. But why are you smiling?
Yeah. And Audrey, what about you?
I think my advice could be pretty general, but I will make it specific to this. And it is that you just don't know the battle the other person's fighting in public and in private. And then take that to another level of, you also are never going to fully understand the depths of the culture you're in unless you've been there for 50 years, maybe even longer than that. I just really believe that.
Yeah. I agree with you there, because I've been here for 12 years now and I still feel like an outsider, and I still miss references and cultural insights, and people die in Germany and everyone's like, "Oh, that's so sad." And I'm like, who the hell is that guy? So it's definitely, you're right. You're
just not going to get those nuances, and to be okay with that. It's really okay, because you can still respectfully enjoy your life without understanding everything that everyone's going through or has been through.
Yeah. Or you can understand whatever it's going through when you go to the doctor and say hi.
I don't like that. I do not like talking to strangers in the doctor's waiting room. I can't.
Yeah. Or when you say, "How are you doing?" you're actually going to get
The whole
the answer.
spiel.
The whole story. And in
Yeah.
a doctor's appointment, they're going to tell you, my back has been acting up, and when I was 16, I fell and hurt it,
Right.
and now it's...
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
It's not an empty greeting like in the States.
No.
I don't think it's
No.
an empty greeting. We just had this discussion.
Yeah? You don't think it's an empty greeting when you
No,
say,
because
how's it going?
No, because even if that person genuinely does not need to know the depth of your story, I still believe in my heart that anyone who says that still has a minutia of interest in that moment, and they showed up to ask you.
I don't know. In South Africa, we have a greeting. It actually is, how's it? Like, how is it? How's it? And it's just another word for hello, and we don't care. We say it, how's it, and someone says how's it back, and that's it. We move on. And I think that's kind of, I don't know.
I don't know. The German version of that is great, at least in this region. I'm sure you have it in your region too, which is na.
Na und?
Not und? Yeah, no, actually, I do say that now.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we're Germanizing, and it's very embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, this has been amazing. You are a very entertaining couple with a very interesting history, and all the best going forward. Where can people find you? Obviously, I mentioned Audrey's blog. I'll put the link to the blog in the show notes.
Which actually,
What about
Zach
you,
named
Zach?
that blog.
Oh, really? Abroad.
It's Audrey is abroad. So it's a play on words. So all our German friends should like it.
And Zach, where can people find you?
Oh, so I had a blog for the first
If you
year
want
I
them
was
to
here.
find you.
Yeah, I had Zach's year in Germany.
Okay.
If you recall earlier, we were saying I was going to be here for a year, but that has tapered off. But there is a lot of sites and observations. I blogged pretty steadily for about every week of the things I was doing and places I was going. So yeah, that's out there.
Yeah, that's good. It could be good information and resources for people checking out what it's like to be there in the first year. Did you stop at exactly a year later? You said, right, that's it. I'm done with this. Can't go anymore.
I think...
I feel like you updated that.
Because that would be amazing.
In 2017.
That would be kind of funny.
Like exactly a year, you just said, nope, this is done.
That's
I bet
the rule.
Audrey right now is looking it up.
How did you know?
Yeah, I named my blog Zach's Year in Germany. And so, yeah, if I were to be a true German, I would have cut it off right at 365
right at
days.
the year mark.
You last updated it in August 2016. So 2 years, 4-ish months after you got there.
Zach.
Yeah.
You're not a German.
Yeah.
It's been so much fun speaking to you guys. Thank you for making the time. And
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
All right, that's it. Thanks for listening. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe on any of the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you name it. This show is on it. Find it, subscribe. And if you want, you can join my mailing list. Go to the website, expatlifegermany.de. You can also follow me on Instagram, expatlifegermany, and I'm also on Twitter, expatlifede. Don't forget that there's also a Facebook page and a Facebook group. You can join those, links in the show notes. And by the way, you may have noticed that the last 2 episodes have been a little longer than usual. So we're hitting an hour mark now. It's not going to be like this for every episode, but if I feel that an interview warrants it, I'll make it a little longer. I do what I want. I'd love to hear feedback about this. If you like the longer shows, then let me know. If you prefer shorter shows, like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, also let me know. I'd love to hear what your thoughts on the show is, because after all, people, here's a little secret. I'm going to pull the curtains back a little and let you in on a little secret here. I'm doing this for you. So I need to know what you think. Let me know, even if it's bad, just let me know. I've got a thick skin. I'm taking advice from Audrey's blog. I've grown a thicker skin. Let me know. Just give me feedback. All right. Music in this episode. Theme song by my band, 10 Cent Janes. Other music in the episode, Until the End, by Ryan Anderson. Auf Wiederhören.